the following thing you're about to listen to, it was recorded on Discord, so the audio for Cory, not amazing. My audio sounds fine. Had to clean it up a little bit for Cory's side, so it might be like a little tinny, but it is legible, so I just wanted to let you guys know beforehand. Well, thanks for joining us here, guys. We have Cory White. He just won the New Year's Brawl, right? The New Year's Brawl? This is not the first event that Cory has won. He has also won countless locals in our area, you know, other small GTs in our area, and he was also the best Thousand Suns player at ACO, so he knows what's up. This is going to be a little bit different of a video. I haven't really done any podcasts or interview type things before, so welcome to the channel. If you guys are new here, hammer that like, subscribe, and bell icon. Check out the other videos, and all that other stuff. And we're just going to get right into this. So we have Cory, like I said, Cory White. So, Cory, where was this event even held? I don't even know.
This was down in Delaware.
Okay.
First of all, thanks for having me on, Kev.
I wish I could have been there, but I'm too busy making videos at this point. Yeah, one of these days I'll get back there, so. Oh, I guess, why don't you just tell us a little bit about the event, like what kind of players were there? Were they good? Were they kind of average?
Man, let me tell you, Kev. So this thing was a Shark Tank, right? There was only 20-ish players at the event, but some of the best players in the region were there. So there was like 5 or 6 guys there that were all GT level winner caliber players.
Okay.
So I mean, this thing was definitely a Shark Tank, and I had to go through some really good players. Obviously, you know, anytime you win a tournament, you know, there's a combination of, you know, playing well and also getting lucky. So there was no easy games in this tournament, even from round 1 on.
Okay. Were there any like named guys there that I would know?
Yeah, Tyler Principo is there.
Okay.
Justin Adams.
Well, yeah.
These guys, they're all ranked, I believe, in the top 100 in the U.S.
Nice. That's my boy. Well, what did you end up running? I know you said you brought the best rules writers for demons, which was Slaanesh. What was your actual list?
Good question. Yeah, so I had been playing around with the Nurgle Slaanesh Grotmist attachment, but I thought I'd try out the Slaanesh one because on paper it seems like it's the best, and my understanding from this, you know, experience is that it is the best. Do you just want me to run through my list?
Yeah, run us through your list and what you took.
Yeah, I'll kind of just like list off the units here. I'm just pulling it up, and then I'll maybe talk about the actual, like the thought behind it. So
yeah, I was actually gonna say, like, did you design it to do anything specifically?
Yeah, I'll sort of like list the units and then talk about the role that they fill.
Perfect.
So first things first, Keeper of Secrets, and she had the enhancement for the +1 to hit aura. So she really benefits from the army-wide detachment of, or the detachment rule of Seductive Gambiting, which is where you give up fights first to reroll hits and wounds. So she's kind of, I think 1 is sort of an auto include in this, and like there's an argument for more than 1, but I just have 1 in this. Then I have Celeste, who's like the kind of Demon Prince named character. Yeah, fantastic. I actually ran him solo, so I did not attach him to any demonettes, and he was really my rapid ingress target, or like use in most games, where he would just rapid ingress and kind of threaten my opponent's backfield. And I played a couple games against people that were like 1 phase damage armies, which he's fantastic for. Because when he dies, he gets up on a 2+.
Yeah.
Deal damage in multiple phases. It's like a free life.
It's 18 wounds for 120 points or whatever.
But still, like, real quality. Then I brought the Mask, which is like the lone op. And it has a fantastic rule, which is essentially you pick something within 6, and you get +1 to wound against that target, and that target is -1 to wound you.
Jesus.
It would go around next to the Keeper a lot of times and just sit next to her and say, hey, do you want to charge me? Well, if you're lower than strength 10, you're wounding on 6.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, she was worth her weight in gold, and she is the only thing in the army that advances and charges. So
it's kind of surprising.
Like, she can keep up with the Keeper because she'll advance every turn, whereas the Keeper will just do a normal 14-inch move. Next on the list is so you don't really see this one in like a normal Demons attachment, but in this one you have the Torrent Bringer on Exalted Secret Chariots, essentially the name or like the character version of the chariots. And the reason why it's so good here is, number 1, it can hold the enhancement for +1 to wound. So it has 3 incredible auras. It's essentially, the first one is because of the enhancement for +1 to wound, a 6-inch aura. The second one is a sustained hits 6-inch aura, and the third one is a fight on death on a 4+ 6-inch aura.
What the fuck?
So like you just put this thing in the middle of your army, and all of a sudden you can't charge the army because everything's fighting on death on a 4+. And when it fights on death on a 4+, it's getting sustained and +1 to wound, and it's just a nightmare. Like, so you just keep this thing kind of protected, and there's ways that you can keep it protected even if you have to expose it, which I'll get into in a second. But it's a fantastic buff piece.
That's interesting. I didn't actually think about that when I was looking at the detachment itself, because that can kind of help you get around, not having fights first. It's like, okay, I just fight on death anyway.
I just fight on death anyway, so I can charge into your combat unit, seductive gambit. Okay, you kill me, it's not great, but like half of my unit fights. And with this detachment, if you have 3 fiends, I'll get into it when I get into the games. Like, I had 3 fiends kill a Vindicator. I had almost kill a Rogel Dorn. Like, I rolled bad, and I put a Rogel Dorn down to like 3 wounds or something. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's nuts how much damage this thing does when you can get all the buffs going.
That's sweet, dude.
The last character that I had is a package of the Contorted Epitome with the a unit of Demonettes attached.
Yep.
And I think you've talked about it on the channel, but like there's a stratagem where you can essentially bounce wounds. So like if you target my Soul Grinder, I can take the like saves on my Soul Grinder and then bounce any failed saves and damage to another unit, and it just gets converted into mortal wounds. And when you bring this package, you get a 4 Feel No Pain against mortal wounds. So the way it works is like, hey, you target my Soul Grinder. I'm using Soul Grinder as an example.
Yeah.
You can use it on anything. Target unit X. I use the stratagem. I take the saves against like the Soul Grinder in my example. It bounces to the Demonettes, and then they get an additional 4 Feel No Pain against it. So it makes really what it like effectively did was it turned my Soul Grinder, which I also have in the list, into this more or less the same defensive stats as like the unkillable Great Unclean one.
Yeah, that seems good.
That everybody knows and loves. So it's like it just turns one unit into a very, very durable piece.
Yeah, and that thing's actually pretty good. I've always kind of liked them, even when they were a little bit more expensive. What are they, 190 now?
They're 180 now.
Ugh, God.
And they go down 10 points about every data slate.
Like, no one's buying these. We got to make them cheaper.
Because they're huge, they're clunky, but the demon stuff now is you have a strat to move through walls, which like they just keep getting incrementally better.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I think it's worth including one in the list. I found it very useful in my list.
Yeah, I mean, toughness 11, 4-ups invuln with 14 wounds, right?
14 wounds. The Slaanesh version has each Soul Grinder gets a different gun.
Yeah.
And the Slaanesh one is the best gun.
Agreed. It does dev wounds. Yeah.
It does dev.
And has sustained.
Yep, you got it. And then very quickly to round out the list, so those are all my characters, and then I'll just go through, I had 1 Beast of Nurgle, which I would mostly just use to do, secondary, so it was the only non-Slaanesh thing that I had in the list. I had 15 Fiends, so a 6, 6, and a 3. Those are my primary damage-dealing units. They're incredible. And then I had 3 individual Seeker Chariots, which are just the 65-point chariots that move 14 inches. They're great at secondaries. They're great skirmishing units, especially when you give them 4 rolls to hit and wound.
Yeah.
And then I had 2 units of Seekers, which are the ones that scout 9 inches and then move 14. Fantastic move blocking.
Yeah.
All around, scoring unit. Loved these things. These things were amazing, and I'll talk about how I used them.
Those will win you the game, I bet.
So it's about 16 or so units.
Okay.
In the list.
It sounds pretty spicy for sure. And you got some interesting stuff there too. I'm not the demons guy. That's more you on the team. But I looked at that detachment and I was like, yeah, this is good. This is real good.
4 rolls that hit and wound is in fact a hell of a drug. Fall back to people just sort of glance over, because 4 rolls that hit and wound is so good. You sort of glance over the fact that you also get fallback and charge army wide. But in Slaanesh, if you ran Slaanesh in before this detachment came out, the way to beat it was just charge a rhino into a thing, and you'll be in combat for 3 turns.
Yeah.
Now you get to fall back, charge into it, seductive gambit because you don't care if it hits you, and you just murder the thing.
Yeah, I mean, with pluses and rerolls, it's just math is just on your side at that point.
It is.
Okay, so that sounds like a pretty damn good army for sure. Did you design it to do anything specifically, like I don't know, fixed or not fixed? Did you take the unit specifically to do specific things?
So I planned on taking tactical, and I did take tactical every single game.
Okay.
Generally speaking, I will always take tactical unless my opponent just gives up very, very obvious, too easy secondary. Usually discard a card or two a game, and that CP can be worth its weight in gold. And two, because I'm Slaanesh, everything moves like 14 inches, so it's really, generally speaking, like easy to get where I need to get to do whatever cards I rip off the top of the deck.
Nice. Makes sense. I mean, your army is very fast, so I can definitely see that being easy to do. Did you see any army lists that you like did not want to play against?
I'm trying to think. Well, like most of the army lists I was like a little bit scared to play, I ended up playing anyways.
I kind of had a feeling.
And I'll walk through the games, but I think this army, the demons in general, struggle into like mass volume, low AP. So like anything like I'm just thinking of like Votan, where it's like, hey, take these like 25 AP 0 save.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I just rolled like 100 dice at you, and like demons hate that. So generally speaking, anything with like high volume shooting that's like low AP is a nightmare. And then I didn't play against any all melee lists. Like I played against some all shooting in this GT, and I played against some that were like half and half, like some shooting, like balanced armies.
Yeah.
It's hard to know for sure if it struggles. I think more testing is required into like orcs or world eaters, because you can't really always use seductive gambit, because if spoiler, if you like charge into 8 bound,
Yeah.
you let them fight first, you're dead.
Yeah.
You can't you have to get very clever with how you approach those matchups, like either not seductive gambiting or like using some combat trick shenanigans to like get around it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I can get into, but I luckily didn't have to reach too far into my bag on combat tricks.
Well, it sounds like it was a great time. Why don't you just run us through your games and anything interesting that happened during those games?
Yeah, absolutely. So round one, I played against my buddy Frank, who I've seen so many times around the store, but hadn't actually played against.
Frank Smith?
Yes, sir.
Oh, he's a buddy of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Great guy. So we had a great game. He was running Tau, the Retaliation Cadre. So like the Crisis suit, like one that like buffs all the Crisis suits.
Yep.
So it was the mission where you split the middle objective into like 2. So there's essentially 6.
Yeah, hidden supplies.
Like it's very easy to score primary in that mission. He decided to reserve about 1,000 points, like almost like the cap of 1,000 points of his army. So I was praying to go first and just like rush him down, like just sprint across the board, let him shoot me with the 1,000 points that was on the board, and then like get into him. But unfortunately, I went second. So he sort of moved up. I like staged, and what this game really came down to was on his turn 2, he brought in like 1 unit and he still had like 2 or 3 in reserve. I came out, and then he had a turn where he could sort of like lay into me, and his go turn just whiffed. Combination of me rolling well, like there's a strat for, hey, if you fail a battle shock, you can't shoot my unit, and then the strat for bouncing wounds from one unit to another. And like with Slaanesh, you're durable, but you can really mess up your opponent's target like damage allocation with these different strats. And they more or less, it was a combination of those strats went off and worked, and I rolled decently well, and he like did not do very much damage at all. And then I just crashed my whole army. And we both looked at each other after I made like 5 out of 7 like las cannon save, and we were just like, this is gonna get ugly here, isn't it?
Oh, the joy of playing Tau.
Yeah, the joy of playing Tau, and also demons with their 4-up invulns, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you make 6 out of 7, sometimes you make 1 out of 7, and we'll see what happens. So yeah, that was sort of that one. That was like really what happened there. And then round 2, I played my good friend Justin, who we talked about. He ended up getting second at the tournament, and he is a fantastic player. And it's a shame that we had to play round 2 in this event. And what's funny is the last time I played him, like I've played practice games against him because he's my teammate.
Yeah.
Last time I played him in a competitive event, it was at this store, and it was round 5 where we were both undefeated. It was for like essentially the title, and it was Terraform. And Terraform is a mission where there's a huge advantage going first.
Yes.
And he went first last time and terraformed like objectives, and I was in a hole and ended up losing. This time it was Terraform. I went first. I terraformed an objective and put him in a hole and ended up winning. So it was kind of funny that it was like the exact inverse of the last time that we had played.
Damn.
So yeah, to like very quickly recap, like I terraformed an objective and I was able with my speed to like just deny him from ever terraforming an objective, which is printed me like 10 points over the course of the game. And it put him in a position where he has to make up those points. So
Yeah.
he had to be the aggressor. Like I could just sit back and do nothing and I would win by 10 points.
Yeah, Terraform's a hard one because of exactly that. The person that goes first in that mission has a huge advantage, and it's kind of bullshit, honestly, but that's just the way it's written, unfortunately.
It's an unfortunate mission, I think, for sure, because it does have such an advantage for the person that goes first. But
Yeah.
to like get into a few specifics of like what I did in that game, like that, you know, like what were a couple of like key moments. Like number 1, 3 fiends went into a Vindicator and killed it. I don't think either of us was ready for like the amount of damage output that I could do there. Another thing that's really good is this list is so fast that your opponent has to respect it. So like they stay far away from you. I go, hey, my threat range is 26 inches. So they'll give you a wide berth. And that allowed me to do things like, hey, I took a Beast of Nurgle and in my turn, I was able to like deep strike him into the center objective to like score points. And like same thing with like Celeste. And because of that, like because of the speed that my list has, like people are very hesitant to move anything within charge range, and it carves out a lot of deep strike space for you.
Yeah, I could see that being a problem.
Yeah, and then the very last thing that I'll say in that game is Justin has, and I didn't even mention this, but he's playing Space Marines, the Packbound Zealots, which does hellacious amounts of damage. It has some of the most, probably the most damage in a list that I've really played against. And I've played against this version of Justin's list a lot. And Abaddon he has Abaddon with 10 Chosen, which like kills anything in the game, right? And he charged into 6 Fiends, and he did 2 damage to one of them because I did the Mortal Wound bounce strat. I essentially bounced 36 wounds over to the Demonettes, and then I killed like 9 back on the swing back.
Jesus Christ.
It was nuts, right? Like, and it wasn't even like I maybe the rolls were high or low, but like it, you know, because I can manipulate so many dice with -1 to hit, -1 to wound, just shed 36 damage off to Demonettes. Like, it makes the math an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
To deal with.
And that's like within 12 inches of the unit that's getting attacked.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But that strat is, people don't understand, like I don't think people have grasped how good that strat is. I have it up there as a contender for best strat in the game. Like,
that's saying a lot.
I know it is, but like you can do some absolutely insane things with that stratagem. So I think I'd say of the 60 CP that I spent in this tournament over 5 games roughly, I probably spent 30 to 35 of it on that strat.
Jesus. Remind me, is it combat and shooting that you can use it?
Nope, it's any phase.
What?
So it is better than that.
That's crazy. Because I'm just trying to go off memory.
Like there's every word you read in that stratagem, it just gets better. So that was essentially game 2. I won that about, I think it was like 90 to 60 roughly.
Okay.
It was a good game. It was a close game. But again, he had to do some things that he didn't want to do because of the pressure that I was able to put on because I got first turn on Terraform.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way that goes.
Yeah. And then game 3, I played against Tyler, who was playing AdMech, the new detachment.
The Halo Screed?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Spoiler, I actually played this later on in the tournament too, but a completely different build. So he kind of went with a shooty build that had like a bunch of different AdMech shooting units. And then the interesting thing he had in his list was, I think it's a Knight Lancer. It's like the big knight that has like the full Imperial Knight as an ally.
Yeah, it's the combat one.
Buff it somehow. Like I think the GW forgot to like write keywords in, and they like all the AdMech buffs can apparently be given to allies. So like You can give the thing advance and charge. You can give the thing +2 to move.
Seems good.
So, yeah, seems good, right?
Yeah.
It was Scorched Earth, so the one where you burn objectives, and the big thing in that game was my Soul Grinder was the hero there because I was able to charge it into the big Knight Lancer. I Seductive Gambited, which would normally be very scary because he gets to hit me on 2s, wound me on 3s. But because, again, I had the Mortal Wound bouncing stratagem, it was like he had 5 attacks, he hit with 4, then he's wounding on 3s, he wounded with like 3. I think I saved 2 out of the 3 4-ups. So it's only 8 damage going through, and I bounced it to the Demonettes, who negated half of it. Full rerolls the hit and wound with a Soul Grinder.
That is such bullshit.
Yeah, I did 20 damage to the thing.
Oh my god. Yeah, I guess it would hit your Soul Grinder, wouldn't it? +1 to hit and wound with rerolls.
Hitting on 2s with sustain, full rerolls. Wounding on 2s with full rerolls. So it's like I handed him like 6 dice, and he failed half of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's D6 plus.
Yeah, it's D6 +2. Yep.
Which was, I think I rolled like 12, which is like 18, and then my like little attacks were all 2 damage, and I got like 1 through or something, and did 20 damage to the thing.
Jesus, dude.
And that like pretty much like then he had to retreat the knight, and like he just didn't have the firepower to deal with my list at that point because I had killed like a screening unit. Like while that was happening, I killed like 1 or 2 screening units, and like his big anchor in the center of the board was like decimated.
Yeah, I don't know how they fight your army.
It's good in one sense because he has a bunch of stuff that has like the Votan treatment, which is like he had a unit that it hits on like 4s or something, but on 5s it's sustained hits 2, and it's all like strength 4, AP like 0 and 1 damage, which is like a perfect profile into like my like Slanesh stuff that's all like T3 and T4. Its volume of attacks, I don't know Admech super well, but like I think it's the Electro Priests.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. It's the Kopaskari Electro Priests. They have sustain 2.
So like he can just output. He'll just be like, oh, I got 70 hits or something like crazy.
And they slow you down.
They slow you down. So like that unit I had to like after it shot the first time I was like, okay, that thing needs this. And luckily was able to like cripple that unit. So yeah, that like those 2 were the big thing, was that unit and the knight. So that was the end of day 1, and that, went home feeling great, 3-0. I essentially knew who my matchup would be the next day because there was only one other undefeated player at that point, which was another Tyler who was playing guard. So I like looked a little bit at the list, and I was like, okay, like and we both knew going in, like, hey, if I can get to him, obviously, I would win, and if I can't, I'm gonna lose. So he was playing guard. He wasn't playing the new detachment. He was playing the existing one.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that game went was I kind of made a mistake or 2 turn 1, and he played it really well, where he like scouted up and was able to kill the mask for free. I was thinking like he has a unit that can just move like it scouts and then it advances and it gets guys out. It's like 10 dudes, but it's like 10 dudes that shoot las pistols and like little flamers, but like that's perfect at killing the mask. Who's like a T3 4 wound body. So I kind of screwed up letting him do that. But then on turn 2, and this was on Purge the Foe. If I had gone first, I would have just essentially moved all of my Seekers up. I went second, which is good and bad. In Purge, it's good because you know exactly how many kills you have to do to outkill your opponent.
Yep.
And I think in 4 of the 5 rounds this game, I got like strategically exactly 1 more kill than him. Like there was a time where he had 1 model alive, and I was like, I'm not going to kill it this turn because I'm just going to save it for next turn.
I always forget to do shit like that.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, like I know, oh, he got 2 kills, I'm going to get exactly 3. Oh, he got 4, like this is my go turn, I'm going to try and get 5. Like whatever the number was, I knew what I had to do in my turn, which is a huge advantage. But what the game really came down to was his list was a 2 of list, so he had like 2 Rogaldorns, 2 Hydras, 2 Hellhounds, Lord Solar, obviously, like 2 Sentinels. He had 2 of like everything, essentially.
I like that build, actually.
Yeah, it was a great build. So we could essentially just run those 2 things down each flank and be like, I have no weak side. I just have 2 like shooting castles.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave me both my 6-man fiend units. One had a 6-inch charge into a Rogodorn, and one had like a 7-inch charge, and I decided to go for it. And I made both of those charges. And once they get in against guard, I'm always going to be doing the full rerolls to hit and wound because I don't care if his tank hits me. Yeah, one of this 1 6-man, I got all 6 guys in, and I was able to give all the buffs. I think they would have killed like 3 Rogaldorns.
What the fuck? What is their profile? Remind me.
Yeah, it's 5 attacks each, strength 5, AP 2, 2 damage, dev wounds, which off the bat is like a middling, like it's a decent profile, nothing crazy. But then all of a sudden, you're hitting on 2s.
Right.
Then all of a sudden you're +1 to wound. And all of a sudden those 30 attacks is like 36 hits. I got like 12 6s on 36 dice with the rerolls.
That's about average.
I think I got 11 or 12, which is 22 to 24 dev wounds. Like 10 or something 5s. Or 15 or something like in that range, and it was already dead, so we didn't even roll the 5s. It would have done 45 damage or something ludicrous.
Just never did the math on them.
Yeah, when you put all the buffs on those things, they just go absolutely nuclear.
Damn.
And yeah, like these things just kill whatever they touch when they have the full rerolls to hit and wound up.
Man, yeah, I mean, having full rerolls to wound with dev wounds, I mean, you can't get better than that. Even when you're not +1 to wound, like, you just fucking kill shit.
Yeah, exactly. And then he was able to shoot me back, and he killed like all of my fiends. I think I had like in all 3 of my fiend units, I had like 1 guy alive after that, and but my keeper was still alive, and I was able on the next turn to move her 14 inches through a wall and kill Lord Solar. And like I had Celeste in there, who is a menace against guard because they can't kill her outside of the shooting phase, and because of that, he was in a position where he did kill a lot of my army, but he was down on the scoreboard because I was like in his backfield, and he couldn't score enough points in time. And at the end, like I probably had 400 or 500 points left, and he had like 200 or 300 points left, but like I was up 30 points on the scoreboard at that point, because the fighting was all happening in his deployment zone.
Nice.
And I was scoring points passively while that was happening.
Jeez.
And with that, I'll talk about the last game, which I alluded to before, but this was my second game against the new AdMech detachment, the Haloed one. And I was like, oh, okay, like I played against this, but in reality, I really hadn't, because it was a completely different build from the one that I played Tyler against in round 3. So this was a combat, it was a mixed list, but with a lot of combat, whereas Tyler's didn't really have that much combat. This one had 3 units of Rust Stalkers.
I was going to say, you got to take Rust Stalkers. They're fucking nuts.
Yeah, he had 3 10-man units of Rust Stalkers. He had the robots, the Castellan robots,
okay,
which are like buffed to the 9s in this
mm-hmm.
detachment, I guess. I think the detachment is like built for them.
It is. There's literally an enhancement that goes specifically on the Datasmith.
Yep, exactly. So like those things were crazy, and this was Burden of Trust, so it's the one where you like guard objectives, but so it's like generally speaking pretty low scoring. But I went first, and we talked about this after the game, but he had a unit of infiltrators, and he didn't screen the Seekers from doing their scout move, and because of that, I was essentially able to move both units of Seekers 23 inches up the board and just lock him in jail.
Oh no.
Turn 1. And he was scared to overwatch me because I had 2 units. So if he overwatched one, then the other one could freely charge into like tanks, and like move block even deeper. So like it was, it was essentially a situation where I was able to like lock him in his deployment zone. And then after I knew I had secured that, I essentially just advanced every other unit in my army up the board, like on his half of the board on turn 1. I then turn 2, I thought I actually had messed it up because I went in with the Keeper and a unit of 6 Fiends, and I'm used to that just like obliterating whatever it touches. But I swung on the robots, like the Castellan robots, killed like 1 of the 4 of them, and I was like, oh no. These things incredibly tanky.
Their toughness 9 base, the dude guy gives him +1, and then the detachment can give him +1.
Yeah, yep. And I think he had all of that up. So
Jeez.
I was like, oh man, I like did not understand how durable this was.
Yeah.
So I like went in and I kind of whiffed, which was the first time this like whatever I had like set out to kill with the seductive gambit like didn't just evaporate. I was like, whoa, what just happened? Not only are they very durable, but I also like I I like failed to hit on like my 10 attacks with the keeper. I rolled 4 1s into 1s. And it was like, what, like, not now, keeper. Not in game 5 on my go turn. No, thank you. But long story short, like, so I thought I was in trouble there. Like I was up on the scoreboard because I was able to lock him in his DZ. And he essentially turned his whole army and pointed it at my keeper. And luckily, I was able to, through the -1 to hit, or like the take a battle shock, and through some objectively like lucky saves, able to live through it. And he like pointed so many guns at the keeper. She lived on like 8 wounds or something, like more like roughly half of them.
Yeah, like that's not even that bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. Like it was a combination of like rolling well, him rolling poorly, and then like passing the battle shock strat. So like it shut down an entire tank shooting. And I lived, and at that point I like felt pretty good because I had one like on his next on that turn, like he was so focused on killing the keeper that I was able to rapid ingress not shellac. I wish it was shellac. Into the middle of the board onto an objective and just score points, where points are at a premium on this mission because he was so focused on killing the keeper that he didn't send anything into the middle. Because he had stickied the middle already. I just rapid ingress something onto the point. And because of that, I was able to like score a cheeky 4 points and then like continue to just kind of lock him in his deployment zone.
He couldn't even break out with 3 units of Ruststalkers?
Well, yeah, so I essentially wrapped one of his transports with my fiends that had 10 man in it. And he had to desperate escape out of it, and he lost like 3 or 4 models on the desperate escape.
Damn.
So now that was a 6-man. 1 unit he had in strategic reserve, and he was planning on bringing that onto the board like via rapid ingress. But if he rapid ingressed, he would be rapid ingressing in his own deployment zone.
Yeah, that's my fear a lot of the times when I'm playing against these really aggressive armies is like, do I even want to fucking put this unit in reserve?
I think in hindsight, like if he would do it again, he probably would have just started that one on the board because I'm so fast. And then the 3rd unit was just in a staring contest with my fiends. My fiends were, he set them up 22 inches away from my fiends, and we were both looking at each other like, are you gonna go? Are you gonna go? And I was happy to do that because I was winning on like points at that point. Yep. So I was happy to just stay there and be like, hey, you got to make the first move because I was sat behind a wall. And like he slightly outranges me, but like it wasn't a guaranteed charge, and he was like, again, in hindsight, I think he probably would go for it if he given the opportunity again because of this like situation where I was like winning on the scoreboard. But like it's one of those things where if he goes for it, fails the charge, which would have been probably like who knows with advancing charge, but probably would have been something like an 8 or like a 9.
Well, it sounds like you kind of handled them all, like handled every game pretty well.
Yeah, so no games on the scoreboard ended up being close. Like I think I won by like 30 to 40 points in virtually every game, but there were moments in each game where, you know, there were 2 times where I like just rolled hot on the opponent's go turn. You know, there were times where like things could have gotten a lot closer if the dice hadn't gone my way. But the fact that I was aggressive and then, you know, when I needed them, the dice came through was a big help.
Nice. Well, good shit, dude. I am proud of you guys, you and Justin, for performing well at this event. I mean, you guys always perform well. You got best Thousand Suns player at ACO.
It's funny, just like one anecdote here before I wrap up, I guess, is Justin and I seem to always play in the last round of a tournament. Like I said before, like the last time I played him was round 5 at this for the title. We played at ACO, a 240 player tournament or whatever it was, on like table number 4 or 3 or whatever it was. We were both 7-1 or 6-1 at the time, and like we're playing partners and teammates, and we match up on the table.
Well, cool. I wish I could have gone. I was a little bit busy. I was actually on vacation for the last 2 weeks, but
Well, hopefully you got, to enjoy, kick your feet up.
I did. And I'm proud of you guys for kicking ass and giving the Giggle Rooms, terrible name by the way, a good name. All right, well, I think that will probably do it for us, folks. So, thanks again, Cory, for hopping on this little interview. Are you going to Cherokee?
Yes, sir. I'm planning on going to Cherokee in, I think it's like late February.
Yeah.
There's a couple of us heading down there.
Yep, I'm going with you guys. I think I might actually play, too.
I can play host and I'll interview you.
I'll just make sure I win it somehow. Maybe like 5 years ago.
You're a great player.
Well, appreciate it.
The last time we played, you beat me.
I did. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you hopping on here. I know you need to probably eat and hang out with your wife and do some other stuff, so I appreciate you getting on.
Until next time, dude.
All right, well, thanks everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, check out the other videos, check out the other channel, and we'll see you folks next time.